来吧。
All right, guys, welcome to the Mockingbird Talk Show with Simon. However, today Simon is our honored guest, and I, Toby, is the host. Um,
Oh yes.
so today, we're still going to go back to how To Kill a Mockingbird is kind of similar to other modern day literature. Well, not modern day, other literature. Um, so Simon, which do you think there's other books other than Frankenstein that we have talked about earlier that also have connection with To Kill a Mockingbird?
Yes, I mean, I can make a lot of connections with between the To Kill a Mockingbird and other literatures, and I think one really great piece of literature is the narrative of Frederick Douglass, and I also think Frederick Douglass has a lot of similarities with Atticus, due to a lot of reasons, and
Huh.
they both contribute a lot of effort, their own effort, to the equality issue, to in different historical background. So that's really interesting.
Huh. But I thought Frederick I've read Frederick Douglass narrative before. I thought he was a black slave, and then he eventually escaped and went to the free states in America, right? So how could he be similar to a lawyer who are trying to work in the southern area?
Yeah. I mean, their experience are really really different. I mean, Atticus was a white person and he was a lawyer, right? And he
Hmm.
was I will say, like, he was never discriminated and he never had a taste of what's being a slave. However, Frederick Douglass was separated from his mother when he was born. He grew up with his grandma, and then he started to learn how to read from a white family, from his owner. He witnesses a lot of violence and really really brutality from a lot of white owners, and he himself suffered a lot of violence from his brutal owners too. So he
Yeah,
was.
exactly. So,
Mhm.
what do you think? What do you think? How are these people who have so much differences in their own life experiences similar on, for example, racism or discrimination against others?
Okay, that's it is a very very complicated question, but let's have a deep analysis about it. So, for I feel like one common thing that both characters have is that they all make their own contribution toward, uh, equality. Frederick Douglass was trying to write, not fight. I mean, pen is as mighty as a sword. He's using his pen as a sword to fight for the equality for his African American brothers, fight for his slaves. He When he escaped to the northern free states, he did not really just live a comfortable life. He was still thinking about his slave brothers, and he tried all the ways to change the situation. For example, he was immediately connected with a lot of white abolitionists, and he also became a preacher. The purpose for him to do this is to preach messages about how brutal and how hypocritical are a lot of white Southern owners of slave. They because a lot of the people in the South, they also claim themselves to be Christians. However, they quote verses like you have to obey your masters. Like, they just misquote all the verses from the Bible to actually commit more violence and torture more on black slaves, which is seen as a very very horrible act in Frederick Douglass' eyes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he, he is trying his best to represent a picture, to put up a picture, um, to show that picture to a lot of northern abolitionists, in order to for people to see the brutality of slavery and to change the slavery itself.
I get what you're saying. So, from your point of view, both Frederick Douglass and Atticus in this novel are trying to say, help the slavery. I mean, not help the slavery, but help the discrimination or racism situation to in U.S. to become better by their own ways. I mean, Atticus is a lawyer and he's trying to protect the black people uh who are being sued for no reason, and then
Yes.
Frederick Douglass is trying to explain his own experience and how
Mhm.
racial equality is an important thing for people to know.
Yes.
However, I heard that Frederick Douglass escape to England or something like that? Doesn't that mean he doesn't care that much after all about his African
No,
American brothers?
no, not at all. So this is actually another similar point between Frederick Douglass and Atticus Finch, because the
Huh.
reason he escaped to Europe is because after his publication of a narrative of the Frederick Douglass, he became kind of famous. But I mean, like nowadays, every author wants to be famous, right? But at that time, because he was still a black person, and he was not completely a free man, even though he's in free states. So his his fame kind of drew a lot of attention on him, and some people, they didn't really like him because, and they just want to probably kill him. So in order to be safe, he escaped to Europe for actually 2 years, and in Europe, he was able to hide himself away from those dangers and keep preaching his messages. And uh, one thing that's pretty interesting is that Frederick Douglass was actually regarded as a good as a human being and was treated in a human way while he was in Europe. Let's have a quote, because according to the YouTube video on Frederick Douglass from slave to presidential advisor, there was a quote of Frederick Douglass. He said, "I've often been asked how I felt when I first found myself on a free soil. This is scarcely anything in my experience about which I could not give a more satisfactory answer. So, and a new world had opened on me. If life is more than breath and the creek run of blood, I lived more in one day than in a year of my slave life." So this is when he first stepped on the free soil. However, he was still, later, he was still kind of persecuted by some people. That's why he escaped to Europe. And then when he first set foot on Europe, he let me see. Let me find the quote. So, so instead of a democratic government, I'm under a monarchical government. Instead of the bright blue sky of America, I'm covered with the soft gray fog of the Emerald Isle. I breathe, and lo, the chattel becomes a man. I gaze around in vain for one who will question my equal humanity, claim me as his slave, or offer me an insult. So by the end, he said, "I'm met by no upturned nose or scornful lip to tell me we don't allow African American in here." So from his quote, we can see that in Europe, even though America has a democratic government, in Europe, he feels freedom more than ever when he's in America. So
He actually feel more like a free man in Europe. Huh, that sounds
yes.
interesting.
Mhm. I mean, this is similar to Atticus, because when Atticus decided to defend for Tom Robinson, he was also the target of slander. You know, a lot of people in the town humiliated him and think he brought disgrace to his family and to, to the town. So that's why he is really similar to Frederick Douglass.
So they're both discriminated against for fighting for their own faith and belief what is correct. And I believe there's a lot of other people like them that is willing to stand up for what they believe, but are also persecuted for what they have been believing. However, I think a lot of these people are not wrong. But in fact, in nowadays view, these people are doing exactly right. They're doing what has been done, but just not enough people have been realizing that at that period of time. That's why they are persecuted.
Yeah.
I believe that we should find more like in our own life. Maybe we should look at some of the situations and what we have been doing, and we thought that it was right to do, and we should think more about maybe that has been wrong. Maybe there's some change that need to be made that can be made by us ourselves,
Yes. Maybe we
so
need
that
to
we can
contribute to
become
like
maybe
our.
people like these, not only to not only to not only to make ourselves famous, but also to make something that's wrong goes right.
Mhm.
All right, thank you very
Yes.
much, Simon. So
Thank you very much.
today is going to be our last episode for To Kill a Mockingbird talk show, And if you guys like this video, please subscribe to our channel, and maybe we'll see you guys next time.
See you guys next time.
All right, thank you very much, Simon.